My name is Jim Shooter, former editor-in-chief of Marvel, also Valiant and other places. And I have to say, Mark Who at 42 is great.
Welcome to Mark Who 42's universe here on SUBSPACE Radio. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten, and with me today are...
Eduardo M. Freyre.
Hey, Ed, how's it going?
Not too bad. Hanging in there.
Good. So school is almost out?
Almost out.
Okay.
Just a few more weeks.
Wow. All right. Who else do we have?
Vicky Jakubowski.
Hi, Vicky.
Hi.
You're back from Disneyland, aren't you?
Yes, I got back last night. I wish I was there again.
Amen, Vicky. Amen.
Desk is so tall, it's scary.
Right now.
Okay, and we also have
Zion Quiros.
Hey, Zion.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. You?
It's going good with me. Folks, we have a very special show. It's kind of a somber show, but it's going to be lively. We're going to be talking about George Perez. But before we do that, we are going to talk, and we have a special guest, by the way. We're going to talk about Ncuti Gatwa, the new Doctor, the 14th Doctor. Guys, what do you think about this new Doctor?
Well, Trish did say it best. It seems like they're going to go with a younger, more physically attractive,
sexier
specimen. Yeah. But yeah, it seems like they're skewing younger again.
Yeah, and they need to. They really do.
Yeah. Although I trust RTD. I trust RTD that it's not just going to be like, okay, we're just going to hire some young guy because we want the ladies back.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm pretty sure if that Ncuti, if RTD picks Ncuti, there's a reason for it. There's a good reason for it.
Indeed.
Zion, what's your opinion on this guy? I mean, I don't know. Have you seen Bad Education?
No, but
Sex Education.
So well, he was also. You're right. Okay. No, but there was a show called Bad Education. I just slipped
that was not him.
Slip of the tongue. I know, slip of the tongue.
And there was a movie
I'm not going to
called.
say anything about that not safe for podcast reference.
Yeah.
Sex Education. Zion, have you seen it?
No, but I think the same as I do with any doctor. As long as you bring the good acting, we're okay.
Yeah.
But that being said, it is nice to have more cosplay options. But
definitely.
But that's never stopped me. So, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Sex Education, and we'll get to you in a second, Vicky. Sex Education is a really good show, and I can't actually tell you anything about it on
Not
this
for
show.
the kiddies. Not for the
kiddies.
kiddies.
However,
not family viewing.
Ncuti does play a gay character, and he is not just a stereotypical character. He goes on a journey. I binge watched the first season. OMG, the show is amazing, and so is Ncuti. Vicky, any opinions on this guy?
I'm actually really excited. He has a very extensive theater background, and he's even performed on the Globe. He's been in the Royal Shakespearean Company productions. He has done some amazing things on stage. So while he may not have a long CV for film, I'm telling you, I think he's going to be great because he's got the same caliber of acting that we've seen in some of our previous doctors. And I am so excited.
Yeah.
And I'm okay that he's young. It's fine that he's the same age as my kid, but I'm fine with that. It's okay. I can deal with that. I just may have to have a little bit more Mountain Dew to get through that, but I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah,
just be careful watching Sex Education, Vicky.
Oh yeah,
with that in mind.
Isn't he the same age as Peter Davidson?
No, Peter Davidson was was he 3 years younger, or
he was in his 20s, but I don't remember how old he was. But he was the youngest.
well, I know that Shooty is 29. I know Shooty is 29.
Yeah.
And so that means he started sex education when he was 26, playing a 16-year-old. Because he's playing a teenager on the show.
Interesting.
Interesting. So I just want to let you know that a lot of the previous doctors and folks on the show have been giving their congratulations to Shooty. Here's something that Peter Capaldi has said. A little boy whose family escaped Rwanda in 1994 at age 2 finds refuge in Scotland, where he grows up to be Doctor Who. That's a story to be proud. With his huge talent and heart, I know Shooty will make an amazing doctor. How exciting. Yeah, because he escaped from Rwanda during the genocide back in 94. Yes. And he was 2 years old. Wow. Colin Baker has said, welcome to the surgery. From what we already seen, you're going to have a blast, and so are we. Enjoy. Sylvester McCoy has said things. David Tennant, Matt Smith, Jody, everyone is giving Shooty a thumbs up, and I am too. He was amazing on sex education. I haven't seen anything else he's been in, and I do need to go and look at his IMDb and see it. I know he was on an episode of Bad Servant and a lot of other things. Okay. Does anyone have any final comments, or we're going to start the next segment of our show?
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, we just wanted to welcome Shooty to the Doctor Who universe. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the late George Perez, who died about a week and a half ago as we're recording this. And we want to welcome our special guest, Roy Johnson. Hello, Roy.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Hey, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name's Roy Johnson. I guess you'd say I'm the publisher of Standard Comics, an independent comics company, primarily Bronze Age style superhero comics. Currently got mainly one title on the go called The Sentinels, which is kind of like Justice League, The Avengers, which were both drawn by George Perez, among others, and basically trying to publish books that harken back to that era.
Okay, and you know I've seen your comic, and I know Ed's a big fan of your stuff, and we had you on the show previously, and you're welcome back, by the way, anytime you want. But let's bring the show to George Perez, tribute to him. Ed, why don't you take it away?
Oh man, I mean, this is one of those. Well, first of all, I'm a giant fan of George Perez. I've met him in person like at least twice, and just stand-up guy. I think Kevin Smith, whenever he does an obit on the Hollywood Babylon podcast, always calls somebody huge bag of wind, and I'm going to apply that to George. He was he's a great artist, cool, great writer, and just a wonderful human being. And it's like, even before he passed, I would sing his praises, but now it's more of a tribute to, honestly, I think a comic legend that now that he's gone can never be replaced. I mean, the news came in while I was in San Francisco last week, and it was just I saw that and my heart sank.
But I remember they announced that he was sick a while back, even on DC Universe, the show that on the DC Universe channel. I think they brought it up.
No, it's been known that he's been sick for a while, but it's one thing to know that somebody's sick. It's another thing once you reach that, once you get that point, once you get that news.
It was pancreatic cancer, I think.
I think.
Pancreatic is terminal. So when you get that, that's basically the story, and it's sad.
Yeah, no, but it's I got to give him props though, because he announced his diagnosis, but he was like, look, what I want to do is I want to celebrate. I want to spend my remaining time, celebrating the fans and everything. No tears. Just and yeah, I mean, I got to admit that he did go to Disney World, I think.
Oh yeah,
I think it was World a month or two ago.
Well, he didn't live far. Didn't he live in Sanford? I think Sanford, Florida.
I think, yeah.
I think it was Sanford.
He what I will say is that yeah, he did he lived near, and it's cool to have. Yeah, it was just seeing him happy and going around the happiest place on earth. It's like, okay, yeah, that that's good to see. I mean, even though you kind of looked and you saw how skinny he was, just the fact that he was smiling and being among friends and family is great. But I think what I do want to start with though is what was everybody's, I mean, can anybody remember their first exposure to George Perez? I think for me, it would either be, I know that I had a cousin who owned the X-Men Teen Titans crossover. It would either be that, or if he didn't do that, it would probably be something with Teen Titans or Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
Like one of those. What about Mark? What about you? I mean, do you remember your first?
I don't remember my first, because I know, looking back, I've read a lot of his things before, but the first thing I was conscious of was Crisis.
Yeah.
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 Because his name was splattered all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Vicky?
Well, it's a little hard sometimes to remember that far back. But in looking at some of his covers, it's like, oh my God, I had that one. And it was really weird because I knew the name, but then as I started looking at some of the things he worked on, it's like, oh my God, I had a lot of his stuff. I really liked him. How did I forget this? I don't know. Old age, who knows? But I would probably have to say some of his work in the Avengers in the late 70s, maybe some of his early work with the new Teen Titans, which is funny because Teen Titans is one of my son's favorite series, of several different versions of it, of course. And it's like, oh my God, I had those way back. Whoa, yeah. That sounds really familiar. And suddenly my brain juices are starting to flow. And it's like, I think I really remember that one because I probably read it while I was living in Hawaii. And it just, I'm flipping through it online and I'm like, oh yeah, I had these. I like these.
Okay.
So that might be my first conscious one too.
Nice. Zion, what about you?
It's kind of odd because like I am like the youngin of the group, so like I'm like of the part that didn't really grow up reading comics. So like I kind of didn't fully recognize who he was right away, right? But like I started like reading, like actually like reading digesting comics like maybe 5 years ago, and when I was doing that, I bounced between Marvel and DC, and eventually somewhere along the lines I ended up along Crisis, and I was intimidated by it because of his art. Like his art had everyone in it.
Oh yeah,
and like I'm like,
God,
oh my goodness, there's Superman, there's Superman again. Superman's crying with Supergirl, but he's also crying with Wonder Woman. The animator's coming out. There's Spectre. What's going on here? I'm scared to read this because I don't think I'm going to understand a single thing. But I have to read this because it looks freaking amazing. And so, like, when I found out, like, the dude died, I was like, oh my goodness, that's sad. But yeah, I was outside of that, but outside of that, nothing really. But that's a really big thing, at least in my like comic story.
Yeah. What about Roy? What about you?
Well, it's the old man of the group. Technically, I guess I would remember. He kind of took over for Kirby or whoever was doing Fantastic Four in the late 70s. So his early stuff was Fantastic Four. I don't really remember that. I just know that it was there and I was reading at the time. But it was probably like the Avengers, and then he switched over to the Justice League. So that was a good 1-2 punch of super team books. books.
Yeah.
And then in 80-81, it was Teen Titans, which was him and Marv Wolfman, the writer. And then, Crisis and everything else. And then he just, at that point, he was kind of the guy who could juggle 100 characters and not have everybody be a quarter of an inch tall on the page, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I think also, I mean, that kind of brings up one of the things that just, for me, it's like, if you want to show an example of how awesome Perez is, take Crisis on Infinite Earths, I want to say issue 5. There's a giant 2-page spread of
Is this the one in the space station?
This is where, this is where as many DC heroes and villains you can think of are just all on the Monitor satellite. And the thing is, you have them all like, just, it's supposed to be, Harbinger, Alex Luthor, and Pariah bringing everybody together. But it's like, instead of everybody, you could have just had everybody like looking up going like, whoa. But there's just so much variety in there. You have hundreds of characters, and you have like, there's freaking, you got, some people are looking up, others, like I know Brainiac 5 and Supergirl are talking to each other. You got Lori Lamaris on the floor, and Aqualad and Aqua Girl are kind of next, huddled next to her. You have the Golden Age, the Earth 2 Cheetah, Golden Age Cheetah, whatever you want to call it. She is kind of walking around, and she passes by Johnny Thunder, and Johnny Thunder's like leaning back like, ugh, God, I don't want to get anywhere near her. All this. And it's like, and this is just a small sprinkling of just the dozens and dozens of characters that are in this scene, and all the stuff they're doing. And it's like, holy cow, and he drew all that. Not to mention the fact that, there's the other thing is, I think, just the technology that he had on display.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking of, all the technology on display. And it's like, it's just so detailed.
Yeah.
It was just so detailed. Like when the Monitor, like the next, at the end of the issue, the Monitor satellite is breaking apart, and you can see all these wires and stuff, and all these just chips of things, just all like, just all like,
it looks like the real thing. It looks like,
yes, exactly.
It's not some of the cheats people do where you've got things in the background or things that are unimportant, so to speak. And it just, but with him, it doesn't matter if it's a little piece or it's an in-your-face piece. He has a detail that absolutely jealous with that ability to I know who that is.
Yep.
It doesn't seem to matter. It just, who he's showing you. It's not a bunch of blobs. It's not a bunch of colors. I mean, we've all read the comic books where there's people in the background, and it's kind of, the visual version of Charlie Brown Adults. And, it is. Exactly. And I feel like Perez just has this ability. It's like, okay, so when you look at it in a comic book, it's going to be maybe a millimeter tall, but you know who it is instantly, and there's no question. And he just seems to love detail.
Oh yeah. No,
everything's
definitely
important.
Well,
Yes.
I think he's kind of, I know this is about Perez, but I'll probably keep referencing Byrne because they're so similar stylistically and time-wise, is that him and Byrne were kind of like the Kirby successors in terms of, let's make a big giant machine. You have no idea what any of these parts are supposed to do, but there's always like cabling hanging with lots of detail on it, big giant machines, and it's like, you don't want to have a superhero comic, in an office. You want to have it on a satellite, or
even if you did have it in an office, I'm sure that Perez would have details on every desk.
Oh, yeah, he'd draw all the
You could
filigree
read the
on the legs.
spreadsheets.
Yep, yeah, exactly. He'd have all these spreadsheets. You'd know what everybody's coffee cup looks like. You would know who's actually writing, who's on the phone,
Who's
someone
playing
else,
solitaire?
who's playing exactly, who's playing solitaire, who's asleep, and who's like, who's flirting with the lady in the next stall. It's like, yeah, he would do that. I could see him doing that.
I think another thing that he could do, again with Byrne, but is that because he's drawing team books, he's got to be able to make the faces not just generic square jaw superhero people. Like he could draw Superman standing next to Bruce Wayne from the neck up, and you could tell which one was which, even though if you look at a book from the 50s, it's like they're the same guy. So he's getting it to the point of the civilian identities. You could identify who it was, even though they're not in costume, and there's no real context to say, oh, that's Barry Allen because he's traveling at super speed. It's some blonde guy standing at a counter, and you go, oh, it's Barry, right? Like he could bring the detail to distinguish, the characteristics and the build. Probably I would have to go back and look, but
like Barry, of course, you mentioned Barry. Barry would be skinnier than, say, Superman.
Yeah.
Because he's it's all about the running. It's all about the legs. Wonder Woman wouldn't look the same as Supergirl. Wonder Woman would be a little taller, maybe a little more muscular. But he'd bring all that. Yeah.
And of course, he could tell stories. I mean, at the end of the day, your comic isn't about a bunch of pinups. So, well, that looks cool with everybody standing around. It has to. The panels have to logically. You have to be able to. I don't think I was ever confused by a panel layout or a progression of the story that he was doing. It wasn't like you needed arrows to go. Oh, go to this one now, and then down here and across.
Yep.
Well, I feel like looking at his, it's very, very much. I realize, yes, he's an artist, so of course it's very visual, but it's very cinematic. The way that I feel that some of his work, it's like you could see that transfer from the page to a screen version with all that detail, and a director and a producer would not have too much to do because they could just recreate those scenes and it would be phenomenal because they already got the set design. They've already got the props they need. They already have, the camera angles. It's already there, and you don't often get that. I mean, there's a lot of comics that are really good about that, but a lot of them, of course, I grew up in the 70s, and I will say that some of my comics were a little generic-ish. Didn't get better again until towards the end of the 70s. But I mean, I'm looking at his artwork and I'm going, oh my God, this would have been so awesome. And I read an article where his artwork on Wonder Woman actually influenced Patty Jenkins in the first movie.
Oh,
nice.
Which, you look at his art and go, okay, I can see it. Oh, yep. Okay, this makes so much more sense. And it's always nice when you see how something that happened a few decades ago is still influencing people and is still inspiring people.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the fact that Patty can sit there and go, oh yeah, I was inspired by this guy and this guy. And and she specifically credits George Perez for the feel of Wonder Woman.
Was he the first one that was sort of actively bringing in her Greek, like playing up the Greek aspects of the character?
Oh yeah.
It might have been.
Yeah,
I remember liking those
no.
scenes.
The Greek mythology was definitely George Perez.
Yeah, because it was there. It had been there since the beginning, but Perez put it. Yeah, okay. Perez put it front and center.
Okay, folks, we're going to have to take a break here. We're talking about the late George Perez. This is Mark Baumgarten along with Eduardo M. Freyre, Vicky Jakubowski, Quiros. and the Standard's own Roy Johnson. We'll be back right after this.
We'll be back with more of Mark Who 42's universe.
Hello, geeks and geekettes. I'm Steve Megatron, and if you're looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of geeky topics, then check out Altered Geek. Altered Geek covers superheroes, Star Trek, pop culture, comics, film, television, animation, gaming, tech, and more. So check out Altered Geek and get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks every Friday on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, Blog Talk Radio, and the Geekcast Radio Network.
You are listening to Mark Who 42's universe.
Welcome back to more of Mark Who 42's universe here on SUBSPACE Radio. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. With me today, as always, are Eduardo M. Freyre, Vicky Jakubowski, and Zion Quiros. And we're talking about George Perez with our special guest, Roy Johnson of the Standard Comics. Roy, you work on a book called The Sentinels. Is that your book?
That's right.
And what's it about?
Well, it's basically like a Justice League or Avengers superhero team series of comics done in the style of the Bronze Age, which overlaps with what George was doing.
Definitely. Are any of your does it have any links to George Perez? Do you do some homages to him in the book?
There's a double page spread poster thing that we included that was done by Mitch Ballard. It's like a big George Perez disciple in terms of artwork. So that kind of thing. And anytime there's technology, I'm always telling the artist, just make it look like Perez would do something.
That's
It's
really
a
cool.
done, but I always loved drawing that stuff as a kid too. Was putting in a big, big machinery from what Perez would do.
Okay, Ed, take her away with the talk on George Perez.
Oh yay! I get to talk. Yay!
You do,
I
Ed.
get to
Sometimes
lead. I
we
get to
allow
lead
that.
everything.
Sometimes
I get
I
to-
allow you to talk.
When I get to lead everything. All right, everybody bow. But no, seriously,
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
You are certainly not. Thank you for admitting that.
I was crossing
I
my
think
fingers.
we were. Behave.
I will.
Behave. We're honoring a legend.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, but yeah, we actually mentioned before we went to the break. We were talking about Perez on Wonder Woman.
Yes.
And I love that I think, I never really read Wonder Woman comics, but when Perez did it, I was just attracted to the way he used the Greek gods and kind of put them in the forefront again. One of my favorite designs of his from the from that era has to be Ares.
Yeah.
I love the idea that Ares is just this huge figure in the dark blue armor and that you don't know what's under there. I think Perez did across, in addition to Crisis on Infinite Earths, in the early 90s, he did a crossover called War of the Gods.
Okay.
Which
Yes.
the central thing was Cersei creates this plot to try and take down the Greek gods, and in the process basically involves all these different pantheons. You have one of the central things is the Roman god Mars goes and attacks Ares in his own home, and this battle lasts I think almost the entire miniseries. Ares isn't doing anything except fighting his Roman counterpart. And there's this great line that Ares has where Mars is I will become the true, I'm the god of war, blah, blah, blah. He's spouting off. And then Ares goes, if you were truly a god of war, your face would be too horrible to gaze upon.
Yeah.
And it's I read that and I'm like, okay, I love that. First of all, this is why we don't know what's under his helmet. And just the ideas that comes into your head of oh, geez, if we were to see underneath that, what would we see? Because Ares is saying, you don't want to look under here. You don't want to look under here. This is a horror show under here because I'm the god of war. And to me, that's like, wow, that is just awesome. That is awesome. I love that I love how the character says that and how this just describes the character. For me, I think the other thing, it's interesting that, we mentioned the new Teen Titans.
Yeah.
And anybody who grew up in the 80s, it's ironic that the Teen Titans and the X-Men did a crossover. Because the whole idea, like that whole thing was like, that whole crossover, X-Men and Teen Titans were kind of almost in competition. Marvel had Marvel, of course, was raking it in with X-Men. And then here comes Perez and Wolfman doing the Teen Titans. And it's like, whoa, holy cow. It's like, wait a minute. Now DC's got a horse in this race.
Yeah. When they brought back the new Teen Titans, wasn't that a failing book? And they restarted it and it became amazing. And was that the origin of Nightwing?
Yes. Yeah. Nightwing came about with the storyline, the Judas Contract.
Yeah. Yes.
Because at the beginnings of the storyline, Dick Grayson was like, you know what? I'm approaching young adulthood, running around in like, in a Speedo and a red shirt. This is I'm getting a little too old for this. Mm-hmm. So he retires. And then when Deathstroke starts targeting the Titans, he's like, okay, I'm going to have to, darn it, I'm going to have to like get back on the horse. And he designs a costume to kind of reflect the fact that, hey, he's older now. He's, this isn't a, he's older now and this isn't it's time to show that. And I know that I think like the common conception like is that the Nightwing identity is kind of a way to honor Batman, but then also honor Superman, kind of do a best of both worlds things where it's like, okay, you still got the kind of, the Nightwing thing references Batman bringing him up, but then it's also like carving its own identity that is not to use the joke. It's not, darkness, owning the night. I mean, it
kind of feels like George Perez is the king, well, at least in the 70s and the 80s, of resurrecting comics. Teen Titans was pretty much dead. Wonder Woman, nobody wanted it. Since the original artist and the creation of it, it was assigned to people. Nobody wanted to do it. Yep. And he actually wanted to do it. And very quickly, he started with storylines and everything else. So he seems to understand, I guess we could call him a fanboy, because he's clearly as big of a fan of these stories as we are. And he's like, well, I can't let the storyline die. Ooh, let's try this. Ooh, let's do that. And we love him for it. And we're not, I mean, there are some really greats that we always remember and we always think of when it comes to our comics from our youth and even beyond. But how many of them are doing it because it's a job, and how many of them are like George Perez, where it's like, ooh, let's
I get to play with,
Yeah.
Ooh, what toy chest do I get to play with today? Yeah.
I know. And it's funny because as I'm sitting here and flipping through articles, it's like, oh, I forgot he did that. Well, let's look at this. And I'm just like, the more I see and the more I think about it, he just was this amazing person who could come in, do a fabulous job. And if he hadn't come in, what would have happened to Woman? What would have happened to Teen Titans? What would have happened to some of the other titles that he was directly related to? Would we have them still floating around today?
You know what? Or even, I mean, heck, he even titles that he had that weren't like the titles he resurrected that he resurrected, so to speak. He also, I know that when he did, one of his first things for Marvel was the comic book Deadly Hands of Kung Fu.
Ah, yes.
And he did stories for a group called the Sons of the Tiger, but in that he introduced a character called White Tiger who was Puerto Rican. Like, he actually honored his Puerto Rican roots and brought in this hero. I know that White Tiger, I think right now, I'm trying to remember, White Tiger, I think right now is this girl who I trying to remember which. I know she was in the Avengers Academy and a couple of other places, but I know that the character he created unfortunately got killed off in I think it was Bendis's Daredevil run, rather tragically, which kind of makes me bristle, because I'm just like, like taking a character out like that, it just felt wrong. He also, hell, he did, going back to Titans, he and Wolfman gave us Deathstroke.
Yes. Yes,
a character who is arguably one of the most popular villains in DC Comics.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, I'm doing this, I need a big villain for my Batman run. Can I use Deathstroke? Is Deathstroke available? Here, let's use Deathstroke. Heck, and I know that the getting back to the X-Men Teen Titans crossover, you have a sequence where Deathstroke basically takes down the X-Men. The image that sticks in my mind is Colossus tries to go for Deathstroke, and Deathstroke just does like a judo move and like flips him over. It's just that, it's that cool. His first Avengers run, the one he did in the late 70s, he gave us Taskmaster.
Yeah.
A character that, if there's anybody who's the, I want to say the equivalent to Deathstroke, it would be Taskmaster. And hey, Taskmaster just made their MCU debut. Not quite the way that George envisioned it, but we still had a character that could mimic abilities and stuff like that. So it was just, it's cool, because you look at some of the stuff he's done, and you look at the fact that he also added to the pantheon of characters, helping bring in characters that even today, people are just like, wow, cool, yeah, that guy. Heck, Teen Titans, he and Wolf, in addition to the returning favorites like Kid Flash and Wonder Girl, Robin/Nightwing, he introduced Cyborg, a character who within the past decade or so graduated to kind of I don't want to say A-level status, but graduated to the big show.
Yeah.
There you go. Graduated to the big show, and is now like, whenever they're thinking, okay, we got to put a Justice League line up, let's have Cyborg.
Yeah.
Like
Roy,
the fact that they're now like, yeah, let's have Cyborg as a part of the group.
Roy, were you a big New Teen Titans fan?
Oh yeah, I bought the series and lived through the weird transition to Baxter paper stuff that was confusing, and and I remember the Teen Titans X-Men crossover, which was odd because Simonson drew it instead of Perez or Byrne, or both of them. And with like Crisis is the one most people sort of talk about, and again, coming back to sort of costume designs, like he did sort of Harbinger and Pariah, Anti-Monitor. But I like the there was one little planet, one Earth, whatever it was, 5 or something, that they were on for like 3 panels, and it had Lady Quark, and her costume is essentially a one-piece Kirby Crackle, and it's like,
yes,
that is sweet. That was like, I think that was also probably using some of the new coloring technology that was kind of becoming available at the time, that it, like color holds and all this other stuff. So he was kind of thinking in those terms. And like, I don't think Harbinger is the greatest costume design in the world. That red cap doesn't really add to the thing, but like Pariah looks cool, the Anti-Monitor looks cool, and Lady Quark looks cool, and there was like, I think, a family of her and her husband or whatever, monarchs of this planet, and just that little set of panels made you want to know more about them, and it felt like they had a history that you just hadn't seen yet, right? Even though they didn't have history, they didn't have anything. They were just there for 4 panels that Perez came up with, and he imbued it with enough interest that you want to see more.
Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. And like the other, I mean, geez, I just keep thinking, I'm just like, holy cow, because like I also think about, the other, like Perez actually did 2 runs on Avengers, because he did the late 70s, and then post Heroes Reborn, he and Kurt Busiek. I mean, honestly, for me, they're like a dream team of comics, because they revitalized the Avengers, and they did, like, with the Avengers, I remember that there's the cover to Avengers #1, which has like Cap basically leading the entire team into battle. And I just remember the back matter for that having them talk about, how George, pointed out characters that, like, there were characters on the poster that were missing. He's like, wait, you're missing D-Man. Okay, we got to add D-Man. It's like, wait, Rick Jones should be in a wheelchair. Okay, draw him in a wheelchair. Or like even the fact that he had he like, and just just like another thing again, a 2-page, it was kind of like a half a page panel, but it's stretched out over 2 pages of the Avengers all gathered, like I guess in the mansion living room or something. And again, you just have all this action going on. You have people talking to each other. You have all these different interactions. D-Man is like way in the back, and you can already see some people are looking at him, and it leads into a panel where D-Man's here trying to eat a sandwich, and a couple of people are kind of like commenting on his smell, and just like, wait, he's an Avenger? Or even the joke kind of keeps it going with D-Man is sitting by himself, like in the meeting room, and you just have people kind of giving him a wide berth, and but yeah, and then I think probably one of the crown jewels of my comic collecting is Avengers Jla. First of all, the fact that we freaking got Avengers in Jla. I mean, what comic fan wouldn't have wanted to see these 2 characters like together?
Didn't it take a long time to get that?
The
planning was like years and years.
Oh yeah, we were supposed to have it in the 80s.
Yeah,
we were supposed to, and actually, I have the individual issues of Jla Avengers, which has another one of those Perez covers that is just like awe-inspiring, because it's every Avenger and Justice Leaguer and hanger-on that you can think of, like covering front and back. But I picked up the reprint of Jla Avengers that they did, to go, for George Perez, that would go to charity, that would go to the Hero Initiative. And in that, it actually does show some of the art that Perez had done before, before that, before the old, that old version died out.
Right.
And it's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. And it actually even says some of the things, like I think the original writer like talks about it, and is saying, like, one of the things, like, for example, he talks about all the matchups that would happen.
Right.
And like one matchup was going to be Quicksilver versus the Flash. And here's the thing. The Flash was going to lose.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, you hear that and you're like, wait, what? The Flash was going to lose? And it's like, the description is that the Flash would be running circles around Quicksilver, and like every time he passes Quicksilver, he'd be like smacking him in the back of the head. So Quicksilver gets the idea. He's like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna stop this. He like stops, turns around, and when Flash is going for another circle, decks him. And I'm just like, oh my God, that would have been so awesome to see on the page.
Yeah.
Just the fact that like Avengers Jla, I mean, just there's the final issue. There's so many panels where it's like all these different Justice Leaguers and all these different Avengers going toe to toe with like this, just all these different villains. It's, you could probably take like hours reading just that issue going, oh, look, there's the Wizard. There's Jay Garrick. There's Captain America in his captain outfit. There's the Silver Age Hawkman. There's the Golden Age Hawk Girl. It's just all this different stuff, and it is. I'm gonna take a quote from Guillermo del Toro.
Mm-hmm.
It's like eye vitamins. It's not eye candy. It's eye vitamins. You're just,
yeah.
It's one of those things where like I want to like look at these panels and I want to have my copy of the Who's Who Omnibus next to me and just be like, yes, it's that guy. Yes, pull out the Marvel hand. Yeah, pull out the Marvel handbook. Hey, it's Constrictor.
Turner D-Century.
Oh man, you did a deep dive there, man.
Well, of course Roy did a deep dive.
Kudos, Mr. Johnson. Kudos. Turner D-Century. Holy cow. OMG, man. That is just holy, dude.
But
Good for you,
I was
man.
looking at Jla Avengers the other day for other reasons. And just like his panel layouts have to get so inventive to be able to handle, okay, so this page has 100 characters. How do I do this? So he's got lots of, it's like a double page spread, but it's only the top third goes across it. And then there's like 2 panels on either side to break that up. And then another one that's like 2/3 of a page. And then it's completely different on the next page. But again, it's never confusing. You can always tell where it's going, what's happening. And you can tell who's who. And he and the writer Kurt managed to work in all these little, Batman defeats Batroc, and then a bunch of other dudes show up. And there's the one where Radiation Man is zapping Superman with the red sun radiation. And it's like, this frequency shouldn't. Oh, the other kryptonite, some guy shooting.
No, Amazo?
Kryptonite radiation.
Was it Amazo? I don't know. Or
no, there's like one guy's shooting red sun radiation. Somebody else is shooting kryptonite beams, and he's like, "This shouldn't mean anything. It's just like a frequency of whatever, but it's the right frequency to affect Superman." So there's there's the little touches within the larger story that just make it. You can go back and
or for me, I think for me one of the good ones is the Justice League villain Prometheus confronting Captain America and be like, I have, it doesn't look good for you. And then a couple of pages later, there's a panel of Cap just smacking Prometheus and like cracking his helmet and going, downloadable fighting skills, neural chafe, try fighting the Vermark. It teaches you how to focus. It's like, that's Cap's, that's Cap's witch please kind of moment. Like, I'm Captain America, dude. What else you got? What else you got,
I like
dude?
when the DC guys first arrive on the Marvel Earth, and they're doing their little tour, and I think it's Batman says, be quiet, don't make any, we don't want to draw attention to her. And he's teamed up with Plastic Man. It cuts to after they're back, and it's like, Plastic Man saying, "You told us to be quiet. You spent 20 minutes beating up some idiot in the skull." Like he's the Punisher, right? And
Yep. Or stuff
off panel, and still
Yeah.
work
Or
with,
like
so.
when the Justice League and the Avengers confront each other face to face, and I think it's in Metropolis,
Yeah.
and you have Plastic Man literally doing finger guns. Like literally his hands are in the shape of like two 6-shooters. Or stuff like something that was interesting is when you have the Justice League and the Avengers going toe to toe for the first time, Scarlet Witch tapping into the chaos magic of the DCU, and just the entire battle, it had been raining, and then she just hits everybody with like a blast of chaos magic, and all of a sudden the rain stops and everybody's like, what happened? Like everybody's just thrown for a loop. But just oh man, I mean, I could just give me a stack of Perez comics and I will just run through them, just staring at the art.
Is there a reason why that book it's in full print?
Oh man,
Marvel and DC are stupid.
Yeah, it's getting the book out. Well, I mean, first of all, getting the crossover to begin with was a miracle.
Yeah, it was.
Like it was a miracle. Then it's the fact that it takes the fact that I think Marvel and DC right now, I mean, are they? I'm trying to think about how relations are between the two, but it's like it can't just be put in print. There's stuff on both sides that you have to wade through.
Yeah,
I think in this licensing stuff like that.
Royalties.
Yeah, I know that with this one it was like a charity thing. So I think the fact that George has done so much for both companies, they were kind of like, okay, yeah, let's honor George.
Exception.
Let's make it's for George.
Yeah.
It's for George, so it's like, so yeah, which is a shame because I think even before they did the special printing, the limited run printing where proceeds go to Hero Initiative, you go online and it's mad expensive getting the issues.
Yeah.
It was something where if you got it back in the day, good for you. Like kudos for you, man. You got lucky.
Yeah. All right. Folks, we are going to have to end Mark Who 42's universe, but on SUBSPACE Radio. But if you want to hear more of this conversation about the works of George Perez, the late George Perez, please go to the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast. Unless you're already listening to us, then stick around. We are on markwho42.com, Geekcast Radio Network, Florida Geek Scene, and all around the interweb thingy. But for those on SUBSPACE Radio, we're going to have to say goodbye. We hope you enjoyed our show, and please, like I said, go to our extended version and hear more with Eduardo M, Freyre, Zion Quiros, Vicky Jakubowski, and our guest, Roy Johnson of the Standard Comics. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. So if SUBSPACE Radio, so long until next time, Florida Geek Scene, Geekcast Radio Network, and everywhere else, stick around. We'll be right back.
We'll be back with more of Mark Who 42's universe.
Pixels in the Animation is the Geekcast Radio Network's video game cartoon review show. We are covering every episode of 9 different video game cartoons. Join TV's Mr. Neil and myself, TFG and Mike, as we trek through multiple Mario tunes, Zelda, Captain N, Mega Man, Sonic, and we are also driving through Donkey Kong Country. Pixels in the Animation is 100 episodes of video game cartoon goodness, so tune in to help us find the Pixels in the Animation, which you can find every Wednesday on iTunes and www.geekcastradio.com.
Welcome back to the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast here on Geekcast Radio Network, Florida Geek Scene, our website, markwho42.com, and all around the interweb thingy. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. Yeah, I like saying that. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. With me today are Eduardo M. Freyre, Vicky Jakubowski, Zion Quiros, and our special guest, Roy Johnson. Hey, Roy.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. Folks, at the beginning of the show, we talked a little about Doctor Who. I need to give you a breaking Doctor Who news story that just came the second while we were recording this. There was a rumor that David Tennant and Catherine Tate were coming back for the 60th. Well, guess what? It's not a rumor. They're coming back for the 60th. Guys, David Tennant and Catherine Tate. This should be amazing. They haven't said, and hopefully they won't, what their role is in the show. But they are coming back, and kudos for all you David Tennant fans out there and Catherine Tate fans, because it's exciting. All right, that's enough of that. Let's go back to the topic at hand, the late George Perez.
The late, great George Perez.
You're right, the late, great George Perez, who died about a week and a half ago as we recorded this.
Died on May 6th.
Yeah, May 6th. So
about a little
9 days ago.
Yeah, a little over a week ago.
Yeah.
But,
all right, Ed, take her away.
Yeah, no, we've been gushing about his art, his character creations. I still like just the fact, you look at the fact that he did Crisis, he did War of the Gods, he did Avengers Jla. He seems to be really good at these like giant crossovers.
Yeah.
And just handling, all this. Oh man, I still War of the Gods. One thing that, what can I say? I mean, this is kind of ironic, maybe even a little morbid, but one of my favorite concepts in comics, and it's become a joke now, is the Legion of the Unliving. It's the fact that this was an Avengers. It's a team where anybody who has power over the spirits of the dead or time and space will just basically gather up a bunch of villains and even some heroes who have passed on and use them against the Avengers. That first showed up not in anything that Perez did. It showed up in the Celestial Madonna saga.
Okay.
It was something that Kang the Conqueror did. He's like, okay, I'm going to gather up some shades so that it's not only a power thing, but it's also like a psychological terror thing. And it's like, for me, it's just, in War of the Gods, there is a point where Cersei tries to tap into the powers of the Greek underworld, and you just have these deceased DC characters popping up, and and I'm just like, wow, that's something. I just kind of find myself going, that is cool. You got my attention with that, because I thought that was a great sequence.
I just looked, and again, I had no idea that he did this, but he did the art for Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah,
he did. I think it started with Perez and then ended with Ron Lim, I think.
Okay, so he's directly responsible for my giant love for cosmic and entities, because when they showed up at the end of one issue, and then I was looking at them, I'm like, wow, everyone's here. Even the in-betweener is here. That's wild.
Yep.
And so they start fighting. And you have, I think, the Living Tribunal and Galactus throwing planets at Thanos. They're throwing literal planets at a guy, and he obliterates both of them. I'm like, wow, I'm not getting this anywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
That's wild.
Oh, no. And the other thing for me is, just like, you have these two competing covers, these two kind of covers that go together. One is Captain America kind of points like in the direction of the reader, like he's yelling charge, and you got all these heroes just heading towards the reader, looking like they're ready to kick butt and take names. And then there's like the next issue, I think the issue where Thanos takes on the cosmic entities. It's just Thanos with a space backdrop, and he's like, has his fingers up in like a, come here gesture, and he's like, come and get me. And it's like, oh man, we're in for it. Okay, we are in for it. This is, oh boy, this is going to be something.
Yeah.
Well, to go back to your War of the Gods, correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably have, but I think before then at DC they used kind of the Greek and Roman gods interchangeably almost. It was like Wonder Woman's gods were the Greco-Roman gods, as if that was one pantheon. Really, the Romans ripped it off from the Greeks and renamed it or whatever. But the War of the Gods kind of made it explicit. There's the Roman gods, there's the Greek gods, and even though they're similar, they're different and they exist separately. And that sort of adds other storytelling because of the nature of the comics. That kind of spills into Shazam / Captain Marvel because you know, he's got his little part of pantheon of whatever it is, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus.
Yeah, and I do remember that in War of the Gods, they do talk about how the wizard Shazam actually traveled around and, you know, mixed pantheons to do this. Like the whole thing, you know, because like the Romans, when they go to battle their Greek counterparts, the Greeks already have Wonder Woman with them, and then, you know, Jupiter is like, oh well, you know, you have Wonder Woman, look what we got. And he pulls out Billy Batson, who then says Shazam, and it's Billy and Wonder Woman up against each other.
It should have just been Billy Batson.
Yeah,
he just comes out and he's like, hey. He doesn't say Shazam. It doesn't say Captain Marvel.
Yeah, well, no, yeah,
it'd be a one-sided.
Yeah, well, no, it was Wonder Woman versus Captain Marvel, and there was like at one point where it's kind of a thing where she wins the fight only because she uses the lasso of truth, and that kind of exposes that Captain Marvel is not a Greek creation. It's everybody. Like everybody was involved in this. So, you know, it's one of those things. Yeah, you have Black Adam seeing the wizard Shazam show up on the earthly plane, and he's like, "What? Wait a minute! Captain Marvel's this little kid. What? What the heck, old man?" He's just kind of shocked and surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do. Yeah, they did that. They even had War of the Gods. There was their own version of Thor, Loki, and I think Balder show up. And there's even probably one of my favorite moments is we get a cameo appearance by the JSA as they're still in limbo. Yeah, they're still in limbo trying to fight back Ragnarok because Loki was trying to call Surtur to come in, and for some reason he couldn't get him, and it cuts to the Justice Society fighting Surtur, and just, you know, and they're just like, what's going on? It's like, I don't know. We just got to fight this guy for eternity. It's like, whatever, man. You know,
the job.
Yeah, it's like we got stuff to do, man. That's, you know, we're fighting this guy for eternity. Just keep going. So yeah, he even had a cameo by the Justice League. Oh geez, I think he even put in some Kryptonian mythology because I think at one point the forces of Circe awaken this Kryptonian dragon from myth.
Funny that you bring up Kryptonian because I got a lot to talk about, but I'll let you No, because George Perez with Superman, big deal. I've gone back and started reading from John Byrne's Man of Steel, going all the way through. I did actually in 1986. I've read everything with as Superman in it from 86 to like 2000, and I'm doing that again. But there was first of all, there was that Superman, John Byrne's Superman, Wonder Woman romance thing, or could have been a romance that was happening.
Are you talking about the famous? You're not talking about the famous kiss, are you?
Well, yes, the kiss, the date they went on, that took place during John Byrne's Superman and George Perez's Wonder Woman, and they realized they shouldn't be together because he thought of her as like a goddess and she thought of her whatever. So there was that storyline, but then there was John Byrne's character killed 3 Kryptonians in another universe, the Pocket Universe,
Yep.
and he went on exile because he was guilty and he was having psychotic episodes.
Yep.
And they were ending the exile story, but first they had to give a reason for him to go back. And George Perez did Action Comics annual issue 2. This is when George Perez was actually coming to write and draw for the Superman titles. And it featured Mongol, basically the first appearance of the pre-crisis, the post-crisis Mongol.
Yep.
And he was supposed to fight to the death, Superman, with this warrior named Draga. But at the end of it, Superman, doesn't kill. He made a mistake with those 3. Well, if it was a mistake, with the 3 Kryptonians, and he wouldn't kill him. And so that was his first introduction to post-crisis Superman. And they had made a decision. He was going to come in, and there was going to be one book for Superman related, one book for Clark Kent related, and one book for Kal-El. And George Perez was supposed to write the Kal-El stories. So there were Action Comics between 601 and 642 were a weekly that were basically anthology stories with a 2-page Superman, which bombed. So issue 643, like a month or two after Action Comics annual issue 2, George Perez writes the return of Superman to Earth. And my God, it's a great story. And George Perez took over he started doing the Action Comics line, and then he switched over to, I think it was Adventures, because Jerry Ordway switched to Superman itself. And George Perez was one of my favorite writers and artists because of Superman. I am a big Superman fan. That was my favorite character for many years, probably still is. And, George Perez was a big part of that. Yeah, I can't say John Byrne wasn't, but George Perez was there too.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I
Mhm.
looked at Superman Works, and he was he inked whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
him and Kurt Swan. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm reading pre-crisis Superman directly to get to Superman number 423 exactly.
Yeah.
So again, I have a lot to thank for this guy that I didn't even know. Thank you, George Perez.
Yeah. Now, I think it does need to be asked. I met Perez in person twice.
Mm-hmm.
I the first time I met him was Tate's Comics in Broward in South
I know
Florida.
Tate's very well.
Yep. He was doing a signing there, so I went there with 2 of my friends. I actually have a picture. It's my 2 buddies and I and Perez. I also saw him at a Florida SuperCon one year, and what sticks out in my mind
Mm-hmm.
is there were a couple of times he left his table and he went to go take pictures of cosplayers.
Right.
There was at one point that I saw a cosplayer who was dressed up as Speedy, Roy Harper.
Mm-hmm.
There was this girl who was dressed up as Roy Harper in his Speedy outfit. I took a picture. I saw Perez, later on just running around, and I'm like, "Did you see the Speedy cosplayer?" And he's smiling, and he's like, "Yeah." Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, I love the fact that he was, he was a fanboy, because what's he doing, on his, what's he doing when he has a minute? He's taking pictures of all this stuff,
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. I mean, and hey, kudos to whoever was the handler for, not freaking out about the fact that, wait a minute, why is he out of his booth?
I have to go see this. Leave me alone for a minute.
Yeah, it's like, he's out of his booth. We can't have him out of his booth. Yeah, I
love that.
I do have, if there's any, I mean, other than the fact that he's gone, and there's no more new work that anyone's ever going to see out of him.
Right.
What I really wish, and I think I'd asked him this, and I can't remember what his response was. I think it was one of those things of, well, they haven't asked me, but I would have loved, my best friend Matt Bendett and I, we both agree that it would have been, I mean, just the way he is with characters and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if George Perez had been given the G.I. Joe or Transformers comic.
Right.
I mean, just the fact that he is, all his work in drawing all these people. Imagine that. Just imagine if he's drawing, a room full of Joes. I mean, I really hope that somewhere out in the multiverse, this is so, because then I will track that Earth down, because I want to see this for myself. I want to see it for myself. That is one of my that is like a dream thing of mine. Like, imagine if Perez had done Joe or Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a George Perez drawn Optimus Prime. Like, oh man,
Happened somewhere.
It happened. So yeah, see, we gotta, like I said, gotta find the universe where it happened. Gotta like track down the universe where Perez did one of those books.
I can ask Ultraman to have a look on his way.
Oof. Or yeah, there you go. Ask your guy Ultraman. It's like, as you're trying to get home, can you
just check out?
Can I swing by?
Check this out. Can you find the world, and can you just like bring us back some samples?
Also, the one where Star Trek went for 5 seasons and they were all good.
Yes.
Oh, you know what? That's even
the last two seasons weren't the animated series.
Oh, geez. Oh, man. Oh, no, because Roy, you just tapped into something. Because imagine, I'm talking G.I. Joe and Transformers. Imagine a Trek comic drawn by George.
Ooh.
We're talking about how he handles tech. Imagine that being drawn by George Perez. Oh man.
Mm.
Oh.
Did he not work on any Star Trek comics?
No, I don't think so.
That's a good question.
Hang on a second.
Byrne
I think
did some.
Byrne did a bunch.
Byrne did a bunch.
First,
George did a cover somewhere along the way.
Yeah, maybe. Let me see. Okay. Hang on. Let me punch up his bibliography. Let's see.
Didn't John Byrne do a first year book?
I know he did. He did something called Spider-Man Chapter 1.
No. I'm talking about Star Trek. I think
he did something with.
Maybe it was
like
4.
A follow-up to the Pike going to Talos 4 or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I dimly remember something like that. And then there was the Star
I'm
Trek
not seeing it listed.
Yeah, no,
but,
I'm not either.
You never know if these lists are complete.
Google is your friend.
Yeah, no, but oh man, I'm just imagining Perez doing Star Trek. Like,
he would have been phenomenal.
Oh man, yeah, that would have been, again, eye vitamins. Eye vitamins. Oh man.
Love it.
3 covers for the original series in '84.
Okay.
Okay. The DC series.
Yeah.
Okay, the DC run, yeah. So I know Marvel had a run, like I think late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, Marvel did it. DC
After,
did it. Malibu did it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, well, no, because I remember Marvel.
Gold
Key did it in the 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember that Marvel did have this Trek license right after the motion picture.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, they
had the motion picture.
I think DC was doing sort of Wrath of Khan era. Stuff.
I think they had it like Wrath of Khan to Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
To the Undiscovered Country, and I think
they did a Next Generation book too at the beginning of
and I think actually like
and
I think
then
the last
moved to Malibu for Deep Space Nine and things.
Yeah, but I think if I recall correctly, it started. You had Marvel getting the license with the motion picture. By the time of Wrath of Khan, it switched to DC. DC, I want to say Generations was done by DC, like the adaptation of Generations. First Contact, I think, was Marvel.
Was it Marvel or?
I think it was Marvel. I think
Malibu?
Marvel. I think by First Contact, yeah, that it was Marvel.
Okay.
I want to say, but still, back on point,
Yeah, back to
Perez.
please.
Discussion.
Roy, we go on tangents all the time on this show.
Yeah.
It's just normal.
Yeah, but oh man, just looking at like his
bibliography,
man, he covered
did a lot of independent stuff too. Like, whenever anybody would ask him, "Who's your favorite character to draw?" It's like all of them.
All of them. See, once again,
doing all of them.
Fanboy. Once again, the man was a fanboy.
Yeah.
Because he freaking, he freaking, it's like, who do you want me to draw? It's like, hey, George, hey, George, we want you to do a page in this big crossover. Can you draw Razorback Shamrock, freaking Blitzkrieg, and the Australian Talisman? Sure. Why not? I mean, that would have been
independent, but like he was doing like Ultraverse.
Ultra Force?
Ultra Force crossover with Avengers? Was that what it was?
Yeah, I think it's Avengers. Yeah. Was this before or after? I know that Marvel bought Malibu, and like all the Ultra Force stuff is now like property of Marvel. I'm just like, is that before or after they bought it?
I don't remember.
I'm guessing before, but
Probably.
I don't know.
Although I'll say this, it's like, come on, man. Come on, bring the Malibu guys back.
It's probably like, tied up with licensing stuff.
Probably, or I don't know. I don't know. Either that, or it's probably licensing stuff, or I don't know. Like the cynic in me says that it might even be buried. It's like it might be a little of column A, a little of column B, in the sense that
there's definitely possible.
There's stuff in licensing, and the powers that be at Marvel are like, they just don't feel like having this argument. It's just okay, whatever.
They'd have to feel it would be profitable enough to. Make it
I know there's a lot of people online who are like, bring back Malibu, and I just feel like if you get the right person on it, you get the right person or people, it would be worth bringing back. Like I think George.
It's not like they've got a series of titles where they could randomly introduce someone from the Ultraverse into a story and just see how it goes. No, wait, they publish 20 or 30 books a month, so they could probably do that.
And I'm sure that you can, and I'm sure you can find a way. I'm sure there are ways you can bring the characters in, especially because I think Marvel is a little less confusing with their multiverse than DC. And I know, and in fact, actually, even we just had a multiversal thing with the 2015 Secret Wars thing. Yeah. And right now, there's a multiversal thing that Marvel's doing involving like a group of there's a comic called Avengers Forever, which has multiversal group of heroes.
Oh.
So it's like you can, the door is open if you do want to pull a little visit to the Ultraverse.
Oh, okay.
It's just like I think somebody has to want it, and the all the little pieces have to align. But I mean, if I was working at Marvel,
I think that's the trick to all of it. Is
if I was working at Marvel, I'd be like,
you don't always have fanboys in control of the purse strings.
Yeah.
Sometimes sometimes you get people who are in charge who love it as much as the people who are reading it and buying it. But sometimes like, I don't think I can make enough money off of this, so we need to go another way.
Yeah.
I understand the concepts, but sometimes how about thinking about the fans?
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Think about the fans and then move on to something else.
Yeah. And just like, okay, just find a way to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Find a way to go, hey, we can do this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one question, I don't know if matters. But how would you describe Perez's art style? Like, to me, it skews to the illustrative side as opposed to the cartoony side, but it's enough exaggerated to be fitting for superheroes and ordinary people characters. Like, I think it's more illustrative on that side of the axis than like a Alex Toth would be draw 5 lines and there's 20 characters for you, right? Like,
yeah, actually, I mean, now that you say it out loud, I would have to agree that it's very illustrative, very, very, I don't know if I'd use the word, I think I would kind of use the word lifelike.
Yeah.
That, like, it's less, it's less cartoony. Like, you could actually, it does feel, it doesn't feel exaggerated. Like, some people love, what's this guy's name? Joe Madureira. And I'm just like, no, not really. Like, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm just,
I just think he whether it was he was born that way or he worked it, is that he was made to do team superhero comics. That was his that was like his specialty. Although I'm sure he's done some story with like 2 characters sitting in a room somewhere.
Well, but even then, I mean, it's
but like, it's not, and I don't want to denigrate modern artists, but I will. But sometimes you'll read a book. You'll read a book and it's like, it's 5 or 6 panels that go across the page, and they've drawn it once and photoshopped it 5 more times,
right?
And then they put a word balloon in panel 3, and that's the whole page. It's like, what the hell did I think?
You know what? Yes.
I think one of my draw some stuff.
Oh yeah, no. One of my pet peeves. One of my pet peeve images is this was New Avengers. I forget the issue, but it was the issue where the Collective like showed up. And it's like, you got this huge full page image of the Earth. And then the next page, full page image of the Earth. Again, same image, but then an energy trail heading towards it. And it's just like,
you could have done that in a panel, not a page.
Well, right, exactly. It's like,
they don't have the same impact that George's work does.
Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned it earlier, is that I think I understand what you're saying, and I think I disagree, is this idea that he has a cinematic approach to his panels. They're cinematic in the sense that they're big and powerful, but they're not cinematic in the sense of it's 5 panels, quote unquote, panning across an open field. Like, you can do that in a movie. You can have 5 minutes of the camera. Look at this great, look at this thing of wheat. Oh, there's more wheat over here. Like, he doesn't do that. He'll have established a shot, and he's into the action. He's telling the story very economically and very densely. Like, there's a denseness to the panels, the panel layouts, and the people. Like I say, I was looking at the Jla Avengers 4, where you got spandex people beating the hell out of each other, and there's no crowding of the figures, but they're occupying a space left to right, up and down, and forward and back. That's filling the panel.
The actual movement is you, the reader, trying to get in every last little square inch of those pages, and you're creating the motion, and you don't even realize you're doing it, because you're like, oh my god, look at that, and it's just so I like your comment, eye vitamins, because there's just so often people can't do ensemble pieces, whether you're talking a director, an artist, or anything else. You have too many characters, they get muddy, they get fuzzy. And with his, it's almost like they get sharper. He can handle an ensemble piece like nobody else.
Oh yeah.
I have to agree with that. Yeah.
Some of it might be his inking too. Like I don't know.
Mm.
For somebody that makes comics, I don't know too much about the stuff, but like most people pre-digital or whatever, comic inker would be using like a brush and
Right.
whatever. He would use like a pen, not like a big pen, but like a fine point pen
Yes.
to do his ink. So his ink lines are very thin and precise, but they still have thickness to provide the depth of foreground figures versus background figures. Are going to have different line
Yes.
weights. But I think he's got a distinctive inking style when he was inking his own stuff that it's just everything felt really crisp.
Yeah. He knew when to make the lines thicker and when to make the lines thinner. And, there are some of those artistic pens out there. My sister's an artist and I watch her do things. And it's like she can take one pen and she can have a shaded line, a thick line, a thin line. I'm like, how do you do that? Every time I put a pen to paper, it's the same everywhere else. I'm not an artist.
Well, he was like the opposite of like Keith Giffen. Like I remember Giffen started, like I really loved his stuff in Legion of Superheroes, his earliest stuff. And then his line work, like his inking would get thicker and thicker and thicker and very, very cartoony. And I just was like, this is just ugly. Like it started out more Perez, crisp lines.
Yeah.
And I think that, like I've always thought, like when I was a kid, if I had my own superhero comic, team comic,
I would do
I'd
it
have
like
George
this.
Perez do it. Well,
yeah.
no, I would do it like that. I'd have George do it. Come on, draw this book for me.
Yeah.
Like it would be, yes, like Jose Garcia Lopez would be super fantastically amazing.
Oh yeah.
But like the dude was George Perez. Like that's the group team book guy.
Yep. That said, that having said that though, I know that Garcia Lopez has that style guide Bible.
Yep.
And honestly, why that hasn't been released to the general public, I have no idea.
Cool.
I have no idea, but it's like, just put it out there. Yes, the art is, and the art's not modern, but put it out there.
I think sometimes they forget that there are fans that go back, decades. And there's a lot of new fans out there that have maybe been yet to discover some of the artists from previous generations because they're like, oh, well, nobody's going to want this. And I do get that feeling from a lot. And especially, I don't know, in the comic book world, if it's not new, they seem to forget, and then someone passes away and everyone's like, oh my God, George Perez, he was best. I'm like, well, I feel like you kind of ignored him there for a while.
Well, it's always easier after they're gone to say how great they were than to actually do something about it. Like I was a bit off topic, but it's related. As I was watching some video on lost films, and like 95% of silent movies are gone. They're gone. And it's like, oh, you get all up in arms about why can't you get them and why? And then I'm thinking, in 1920, why the hell did film studios even bother to keep their films? There was no home theater industry that they could make money off of. Nobody re-releases a film in theaters. It's like, what do they even keep? So I'm almost thankful that they did the meager amount that they did to preserve those films that we've got stuff now. And it's like, I know Star Trek has got like this Roddenberry preservation project where they're keeping scripts and all this stuff. And it's like, comic industry, they keep their comic books as reference material or whatever. But like, are you actively keeping alive the lost artwork or this was only published once in 1972 and now you can't get, I know you're in a form of show business and it's the business part that drives it, but to have stuff in your pocket, as it were, and not keep it alive in some way, like, just seems so short-sighted, right?
Yeah.
Why, just because whoever publisher guy versus some other publisher guy didn't like each other, really? You couldn't keep JLA Avengers in frickin' print for 20 years? Like, they have the business incentive to do it
There's
with
just been too
Watchmen.
many things like that where,
But, yeah.
but I kind of feel that from at least the 60s and 70s forward, there should have been more foresight because we already started to see so many things that, I wish we kept this, we kept that, complaints about the lost Doctor Who episodes, so many TV shows, even as late as this 70s, that have been lost. And it's like, okay, by that point we knew. By that point, Universal Studios tram tours was a thing. By that point, these museums were a thing. What is wrong with you people? Why don't you keep these things? And occasionally we release them.
Like, the thing is now, if they act like, I do understand they're driven by the almighty buck.
Yeah.
But you know what you could do? This is right now, forget about 1960 and 1920s. It's 2022. Ends. Give the fans stuff. Let them figure out a way to preserve it and host it, and they get a license or whatever. So the studios crank out the stuff. They get their short-term profits.
Right.
You get the fans like, oh, you want to remaster that? Give it to five computer nerds, and they'll do HD restoration by next week. Oh, you want this in 4K? No problem. We'll just the computers up. We're done. And then they can almost, like, if there's like the comic company or the studio or whatever says, we're gonna let you guys look after this under some licensing agreement thingy. And if 5 years from now we want to do a 4K remaster release of whatever, you guys can do that. We're not going to pay you. You guys can do it because you love it, and maybe we license it to you for free because we call upon you occasionally to do stuff. And now we're going to do the 4K remastered release of whatever on the waterfront.
Well, it makes me think about some of the magical private collections out there of various items, whether they are comic books or paraphernalia or films or whatever it is. And then, it's like, oh, you go to this, look what they have. Oh my God, they have the original. They have this, they have that. And you're like, oh, thank God someone had the wherewithal to save the dumb thing.
Well,
because
it's so
they
random.
don't care. Yes.
It's so random. Like, I was watching that video on the lost films, and it's like, this film was thought lost in 1920 until a print showed up in an insane asylum in Bulgaria.
Yes. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
So obviously
it's
they were
always something
screening
weird
movies
like
for
that.
the inmates or whatever, but it's like, I know this is Perez, it's not on the topic. The like Schuster and Siegel, they did their Reign of the Supermen science fiction story publication, and that was published, and then that's preserved. And then I guess they also did sort of an illustrated dealy of the Superman, and the cover shows a guy in pants and no shirt swooping down to beat up some criminals or whatever. And they were having trouble with the that period between 33 or whatever and 38 before they actually sold it to Action Comics. And they kept getting turned down. And one of them got pissed off, took that comic or book or whatever, ripped it all to shreds and threw it in the fire. So there's no copy of it that exists anywhere. There's just the cover. And it's like, everything is seen as just disposable trash for kids by so many of the studios. But then you look at how much money how much money has Marvel made from the characters that were created or developed by Perez or Kirby or whoever. Oh, this is just child trash. Oh, these are just comics. Oh, we made $5 billion. And here's $1. Here's $2.
Yeah.
Thanks for your work or whatever. But I got another. I have to get a nesting doll yacht, where there's a yacht inside a yacht inside a yacht with this money.
A super yacht. A super yacht.
Jeez, don't give these guys any ideas. Seriously.
Yeah. But it's one of the things that I think with all of these amazing artists, and let's be honest, we're losing so much talent and so much knowledge and so much of my lifetime and my childhood that it's just it's breaking my heart that he'll never be able to, George Perez will never be able to draw another amazing cover or 2-page spread that I'm going to go gaga over.
Yep.
It's the loss of that. We're honoring this guy, but it shouldn't just be the fans honoring it, and then you got some big time fans like Kevin Smith. But I feel like the studios themselves, the comic book producers themselves are not the fanboys, are not the fangirls that we are.
Yeah. I mean, I think you may have like a writer or an artist who's a fanboy, but there are some, I feel like, and this is really cynical, I know, but I feel like as you go higher up the chain, you get people who, they're looking at the bottom line. I mean, they're looking, they're sitting there and they're like, well, we did our focus groups and, according to our experts, so, they're quick to just shoot down an idea, especially if like it doesn't fit into like a little category, little easy category that you can just throw out.
Well, they're
the things that don't fit into yes, they very much are. The people, I find it's the things that don't fit into the nice, neat categories are the most interesting, are the most fascinating, are the things I love the best.
Yep.
And I'm so tired of hearing things. Well, we didn't know how to market this, or we didn't know how to sell this, or there wasn't enough people interested. Well, it's because you marketed it as this when it was that. And you did this.
No, or it's like,
I guess a good counterexample would be the Marvel movies themselves. Like, you can argue Spider-Man was first, but give a shit. Like Iron Man 2008, 2009, that was the one that put Marvel movies on the map, right?
Yes.
There was not anybody. I guarantee none of the 3 other people on this thing or anybody listening to the show in 2007 was sitting there going, I wonder when they're going to release an Iron Man movie. I can hardly wait for Iron Man.
Someone
took a chance. Like, I don't know if he would be considered a B-lister or a C-lister.
I would say it depends on who you talk to. Yeah.
But it's not like they're making a Spider-Man or. Well, that's the other thing. Before the Marvel movies, nobody knew Marvel characters except the Hulk and Spider-Man. Like the average person, name some superheroes: Superman, Batman, Robin, Captain Marvel, Captain Shazam, whatever.
Yeah.
So this first movie comes out. They hit the right star in Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
They had a kick-ass trailer with great AC/DC music to hook people in.
Yes.
Had a solid popcorn movie plus.
Yeah.
Like I would say it's not a popcorn movie. Those are like brain dead action movies.
Yeah.
There's some heart to the Marvel ones, even though they're cranked out. Like that was somebody somewhere taking a chance. This Iron, maybe we could make a movie. And like it doesn't matter. Like people were snickering when Ant-Man came out. It's like, if you write it well and you treat the character with respect, it's going to be a decent movie. People want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be like, where's my Zatanna movie? I'll go watch it.
Yeah,
I'd go watch it.
And you know what? And kudos,
Elongated Man, bring it.
Oh yeah. Oh hey, I'm with you. I'm with you, man.
Chimp series.
Oh jeez.
But if you do a good job, that's not a guarantee that it's going to make money. But any character, if handled properly, could theoretically be successful, right?
Yeah. Well, I keep thinking about. I mean, you brought up Ant-Man. It's a risk with Iron Man, but then think about who decided to take the risk and tell James Gunn, "Hey, we want you to direct a sci-fi action movie called Guardians of the Galaxy.
Talking tree.
It's got a talking tree and a talking raccoon.
It's gonna be a hit.
It's like, who's the one who was like, you know what? Why not? We don't have that. We're talking to Sony about maybe getting Spider-Man, but until then, we need something. Hey, let's try this Guardians thing.
Yeah.
And it worked. It actually freaking worked. As far as Ant-Man, I remember, before he came out, my wife Trish and I are in, we're in Disneyland, and the Bugs Life Theater got converted to doing a preview for Ant-Man. And it's like, up until this, I'm like, oh, wow, I really can't wait for this movie. And Trish is like, I don't know. We see the preview in the Bugs Life Theater, and it's like this Grinch's heart grows 3 times its size that day. Trish is like, oh, no, now I want to see it.
Oh, yeah.
Now I want to see it. Now she wants to see it. So it's like, I mean, it's, I would say that probably Iron Man was probably, like, if you had to take a risk and your choices are Iron Man or Ant-Man, you're going to go with the guy in the armored suit.
Yeah. We're talking about Ant-Man, and I can't get out of my head now the Garrett Morris as Ant-Man.
Oh my God, from Saturday Night Live.
I am
yes.
my power in the size of an ant. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh no, and it's funny. I mean, bringing it back full circle.
Yeah.
I picked up at a convention. I picked up an old issue of Perez's Avengers run in the 70s. And yeah, the cover it's the end of the issue. It features the debut of Taskmaster.
Okay.
Like, he shows up at the end of the issue as the cliffhanger sting.
Right.
But like, the cover is, you have Yellow Jacket and Ant-Man. So Henry Pym and Scott Lang, and they're attacking this guard with like swarms of like ants and wasps and stuff. And then you have Wasp is like on a table with this like tent or something over her head. And you have like Ant-Man's like, hurry, ants, we must free the Wasp. And it's just, I mean, it is just, it was just such an eye-catching cover, especially seeing some poor like punch clock henchmen getting swarmed over by insects. It's like, you gotta wonder that guy.
That's what makes it so great.
Oh
Come on,
yeah. Of course. I also that puts images in my head of this poor punch clock villain going home at the end of the day after the Avengers win the day, and just being covered in welts, and his wife like, "What happened to you?" Yeah, some superhero who controls ants just swarmed all over me.
Thank God the boss has healthcare coverage.
Good thing I'm not allergic. But another
Joker.
Yeah, another Perez regret that I have. So there's a line in Jla Avengers that has always stuck with me. Batman and Cap eventually decide to team up and figure out how they can actually get a handle on this.
Yeah.
And what they end up doing is they track down the headquarters of the Grandmaster. The Marvel cosmic villain.
Yeah.
And Adam Ray Palmer was already like in the HQ. He had already spied on Grandmaster. And Batman and Cap rendezvous with him, and he goes, I know where his control center is. Take a left at the life-size Hungry Hippos set with what looks like demonic-looking hippos. And to this day, I'm like, dude, I want to know what that looks like. You had Perez. You had Kurt. You had Perez. You could have done it for us, darling. I want to see a life-size Hungry Hippo set with demonic hippos. Come on, dude! Yes. Don't tease me like that.
Yes.
Don't tease me like that. Dang it! You had George. I'm sure if anybody could pull it off, if anyone could pull it off, it would have been George Perez.
Yeah.
Yes.
He would have pulled it off. It would have looked gorgeous. Oh, darn it! That's another thing I got to look in the multiverse for.
I wish I'd gotten on his commission list at some point.
Oh,
early on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man, that would have just been ay, man alive. Look.
Like, can I just say, like, one of the sad things, but one of the positive things of George was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he made the decision, I'm not going to get treatment because it doesn't really, it just extends your suffering, right?
Yeah.
So he and the fans sort of know sometime within the year he's going to go, right?
Yeah.
And so you have this opportunity for like all these tributes and all these, oh, I love George's work, and the sad reality is all of your favorite artists are going to be gone someday.
Yes.
And you are not going to know when. 99 times out of 100, so and so gets hit by a blimp, they're gone.
A blimp?
Okay,
that's far-fetched there. That's kind of high up.
In the U.S.
Get it high up,
year.
blimp?
Sorry. But like you're not going to know. And it's kind of like when you're with family or your friends, is you never, well, I wish I told them I loved them more than I did, or whatever. It's like take the time, take the opportunity. If you think Ron Friends is the best dude that ever worked on, like, write him a note. Post a thing.
Yeah.
Take the opportunity while they're still here to let them know, even though they kind of know and they're busy, whatever. But it's to put those, just like you should tell your mom and your dad and your sister and your brother that you love them.
Yeah.
While they're still here, take the time, do it now, and because so and so isn't going to be here forever.
Yeah, I agree, because my uncle had pancreatic cancer as well, and he's gone now, and I have words I wanted to say to him that I didn't get to, but
you know what, my one of my uncles had cancer. This was back in like 2019. He had cancer, and and what happened was, and then like August of 2019, we my dad turned 70, and had like a huge party, and he actually managed to attend. My uncle managed to attend. I still have a picture of the two of them, and I did get a chance to talk to him. He actually, he passed away in 2020, but I gotta give him like, you know what? I gotta give him props. He hung in there. He actually beat the odds, though. Yeah. He beat the odds, because the doctors were saying you're not going to make it to Christmas.
Wow.
And he made it into 2020. He actually went over by at least a couple of months. And but what really gets me is the fact that he, in the time that he had left, he was able to, spend time with his family. He was able to make it to my dad's birthday. They were able to spend time together. So, it's one of those things where, at the least, time was well spent.
Yeah. And that's all you got. That's all you got.
Yep.
And we're all thinking about George Perez during this show, and for many of the same reasons. All right, guys, that's about the end of our show. Let me have final words from everyone. Ed.
You know what? I'm just gonna. I got my water that I always keep handy. Whenever we do these things, and I'm raising it. Raising my water, raising a toast.
I'll do the same. I'll do the same.
Raising a toast to George, man. You weren't. It's not you were a legend. You are a legend.
You are a legend.
Yeah.
You are a legend. You are. If somewhere in the heavens there's like a pantheon of great artists, your place is there now.
Yeah.
Your place is among the stars, sir.
Yeah. Okay, Vicky, final words.
Thanks for my childhood. George was all over my childhood, and I'm eternally grateful for that.
Yeah.
All right. Roy, any final words?
I think I'd echo what Vicky's saying of the work that he did, and also the influence that he's had on the industry and other artists who sort of are not necessarily imitators, but followers of his style, and were heavily influenced by him, because that'll provide more great art into the world.
All right.
Yep.
So,
and you know what? And go. I would say anybody listening, as soon as we're done, go.
Yeah.
If you have to do it via Comixology, do it via Comixology. If you actually have in your collection, you know, if you got to run to Barnes and Noble and see what's on the shelves, find something he did and just soak it in, enjoy it. You know, read the words and then take a minute to just like soak it in. You know, soak in those giant panels in Crisis. You know. Soak in the stuff he did with Music and Avengers, soak in the Teen Titans, soak about as much in.
I'm going to continue reading my Supermans with him.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's about, like I said, that's the end of our show. You've been listening to the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast on Florida Geek Scene, Geekcast Radio Network, markwho42.com, our website, and all around the interweb thingy. On behalf of myself, Mark Baumgarten, Eduardo M. Freyre, Vicky Jakubowski, Zion Quiros, and our guest from the Standard Comics, Roy Johnson, we're going to bid you adieu. Roy, you're welcome back anytime you want.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Oh yeah, not just to plug stuff, man.
No, definitely for comic-related topics.
Oh yeah.
All right. So until next time, bye everyone.
Avengers assemble.
I was waiting for that. Bye. Thanks for listening to Mark Who 42's Universe with hosts Mark Baumgarten, Eduardo M. Freyre, Zion Quiros, and Vicky Jakubowski. This program was produced and directed by Mark Baumgarten. If you'd like to get in touch with us, please go to our Facebook page or email us at markwho42s.universe@gmail.com. You can listen to old shows at our website, markwho42.com, or even our YouTube page, markwho42.
Mark Who 42's Universe, copyright 2022.